All right, everyone, welcome to another episode of Cooking with Unity. I actually don't know the number. I think it's 26 or something. But we are here with myself, Max Moreau, with Phil Wilson,
yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's
I don't know why I'm worried about that. As doing the tech stuff. And we have a special guest today. We have my friend Douglas Beck, Dr. Douglas Beck, who used to work at Sony with me, and now he's always been doing cool games for portable systems. Yeah. How many years, actually?
Well, my first game came out in 01, so what is that? We're going on 11 years now.
Yeah. Yep. What system was that for?
That was for Pocket PC.
Awesome. Yeah.
God rest its soul. It's just been taking a beating for like the last 5 or 6 years.
Well, you have some first-hand experiences why that might be the case. You've told me some stories about submission processes for like Microsoft to get a certified game out. A little bit more expensive than the $100 a year from like Apple or the $25 for Android development, is it?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, when I hear people complaining about the $99 thing, I just think, wow, it's a good thing you weren't around in like 03 when it was $500 per attempt, per language, per version, all this kind of crazy stuff that just seems impossible.
Yeah. It seems a lot better now. I mean, it's market saturation is the biggest worry now, as opposed to just buried entry. But it's easy to make a good product and make some money with it, or even a mediocre product and make some money with it. Unlike before, where it's just you're going to be spending more money just getting it on the stores than making.
It was really difficult back then because the customer base was just so much smaller than it is now after the iPhone explosion. There just weren't. I mean, I felt like all my titles got more than enough visibility, and that garnered enough sales to keep going, but you weren't like Angry Birds rich or anything.
Yeah, no one's Angry Birds rich. We see that. I go to the supermarket and there's nuts that are branded Angry Birds. So I don't even know what Angry Birds have to do with nuts, but they evidently are branding them.
Birds
now.
like nuts.
Exactly. I guess that's true, but
and
they usually don't run into them though.
There was no real way to install the app on the device either. You had to roll your own. You had to write your own installer for the PC that uploaded this compressed file called cab file to the device for it to digest, and it was pretty brutal.
That just sounds awful.
It was awful. So a lot more time can be spent just focusing on the game and the game itself and the gameplay and what it's going to be, rather than how you're going to get the game onto the device and just ridiculous stuff like that, and how much it's going to cost and if it's even viable. So
yeah. So yeah, no, it's amazing how the game has changed in that regard, and there's kind of a open market now there actually is a market, not just an open market. There's a market in general for games and apps. So I just wanted to quickly plug. Doug made Starfall 2, and Starfall 2 is awesome. It's a little tower defense game, and so Doug is a bit more hardcore than most of the people in my little programming group here. Typically, he rolls his stuff from the ground up, which is what he did for the Starfall here. I'm just going to go through some screenshots and stuff. What was the first thing you made in Starfall?
You know the answer to this. Right?
I do. I want you to say it though.
Obviously the main menu and the associated menus. I literally spent like a month before I even progressed past the main menu. Well,
yep.
The game wasn't even playable until it was almost completely done.
This guy had. You're selling yourself short here, Doug, because not just the main menu, your UI system in particular. Like this game was a UI. Like all these fancy things that you've got here was well before there was even a level. There was no level, there was no nothing, and it was just you had the menus and you had your UI system, and it looks beautiful, and you had this all set up. You built this game literally like from the front and worked back. And it's awesome, and it's Yeah, it's cool stuff. But also the other thing is like so you made this using your own engine, but you actually did use Unity for part of this project, right? Or at least for the sequel.
For the sequel, yeah. For the backdrops, I definitely did. I used the height map, and then one of the cool things that Unity can do is it can bake in the light maps and everything, so you can get in there and really get your. It worked out really nice because I would take my gridded out playfield and just turn that into a height map, import that into Unity, and get it dialed, and then right inside Unity they have the texture tools, which lets you paint on textures and then once you, and of course I add all the 3D models like trees and rocks and get it all dialed in, and then it bakes in the light map, and then it seems kind of like a crazy way to do it, but just take a giant high-res screenshot of the playfield at the appropriate angle, and there's your two-dimensional backdrop image, and then even after I had all that stuff, I went through and stripped the land from the water and did a bunch of crazy compositing stuff so that you could get a nice water texture that looked and animated and looked visually pleasing to kind of tie it all together. So I just, for Starfall 1, it was just your standard classic old school tile set, and it worked and it looked good. I think it looked really good, but when I got to the sequel, I wanted to do something different, and it wasn't. I just could not find a tile set or make a tile set that I was happy with, and then in the end, I wanted to do some, there's terrain programs out there like Bryce is one of the classic, that's a classic app, right? Everyone knows Bryce, right? Yep. I may have fired that up, a time or two and just oh God, this is not going to work.
On a modern setup, it was so cool in 95, and it's just not as cool anymore.
Yeah. And then
it renders in real time though now.
Yeah, just about. And it looks it was amazing in its day, but it's not modernized to the point where it's usable in a production setting. So another tool is Eon software. I think it's called View or something like that. I actually own a license for that. I bought it for another game I was working on, and I tried that, and it basically kind of came up short. Just and that tool is used in movies and everything to do realistic animated landscaping for movies, and it's really evolved into an awesome tool. But I mean, it's crazy how Unity's just come out of nowhere to this very usable piece of any production pipeline. It's pretty crazy. So I was pretty excited to use that.
Actually, do you mind me if I show them the little prototype that you did on this weekend?
Oh, yeah.
Or it was just like Sunday night, right?
That was last night, actually.
Last night, all right. That's Sunday night. That's the same thing.
Yeah, you're right. Okay, it was last night. So I'm really enjoying learning from you about Unity because, like you mentioned, up until now, I pretty much use my own game engine from scratch. So
you're going to be a force to be reckoned with the Unity thing. I'm actually a little afraid of this episode just because Doug's going to be looking over my shoulder while I'm doing vector math, and he's going to be like, "Why does he not know this stuff? This is basic stuff." So I'm not going to say anything because there's going to be some Marvel Madness music playing in the background, and it's going to drown out everything I say, and I can't really turn off the sound on one app right now. So I'm just going to play this game real quick. This is just what he threw together as a little prototype in a short amount of time. Yeah, he basically has... I said I wasn't going to talk over it, but yeah, I'm not going to. There's no goal or anything, right?
Yeah, no.
And let's get a bunch of balls. Anyway, yeah, he threw that together real quick. Obviously inspired by Marvel Madness, and actually that remix was by... what group was that?
I'm not sure what group it was. I found it on YouTube.
Yeah.
No, I just put it in there to get
I'll put them on the credits for the show or something later. I looked it up earlier, and I mind blanking on what it was actually called. All right, so that looks pretty pro for just a few minutes, and you just threw that together in 3ds Max for the terrain, you said. And
yes,
that's awesome.
And really, the only thing that I knew about Unity was what I learned from your tutorial videos. So
right,
that was basically, you taught me how to do that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I appreciate that praise.
That took a couple hours tops. That's the cool thing about Unity.
Yeah,
and 40 lines of code. Man, there's hardly anything
Marvel
there.
Madness fits it very, very nicely, just because it's a physics game, and you just have to get the forces going, and get some little AI for the little red balls, and have at, which is awesome.
It's probably executing a million
this
lines
is the
of
wrong
back-end
project.
code.
That's my project. Hold on.
I still think it's funny that I played a game of yours before I even met you on my iPack. That little breakout game, the Penny Arcade characters. I don't remember what it was called.
Bust 'em.
Bust 'em?
Yeah. Just shout out for a game written in 02.
Yeah.
That was game number 2. Shipped on every compact iPack for a while, and on some of the HP models.
That's awesome.
That was crazy.
It was a good game.
Now you can go and just throw something up on the App Store. If it's good, it'll make equivalent money without all that. Have to do all that marketing and legwork to try to get on a platform somehow.
Yeah, it probably took a lot more effort than it does nowadays.
It definitely did. More people and everything. Now, Unity is definitely it shows so much promise going forward. It's amazing. Who knows what Unity's going to be in a couple of years?
No kidding.
It's a moving target for sure.
Yeah. But it's a moving target that hits other moving targets, hopefully.
Definitely.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
I'm glad that they updated for iPhone 5 support so recently. They're pretty fast about getting the new hardware supported properly. So, last episode, where did we leave off? We got back to our regular program here. Not a whole lot happening. Oh, there's the enemies. Oh, I turned off the turret because he was killing me. So let's see how our turret was doing. Did we actually get this thing working before? I think we did. Yeah, we got a turret. It's turning and shooting, and it really needs to shoot less rapidly. But and it needs to kill us at some point. Right now, we're invincible. It's interesting that I don't kill the enemies. Huh. Thought the enemies would go on any collide. Alright. So, what do we got here? First, let's tweak our turret just so it's a little bit less ridiculously fast shooting. Let's make it more like 1.5 seconds between shots. And, bullet speed, let's actually make that slower. Let's make it like 6 and see how that plays real quick. Alright. So, first off, I'm going to start by just fixing a little bug that we've got here. So, see how when I rotate, it looks like the bullet's coming from the center of the dude rather than from the front of it. See how it kind of comes out the side here. You can see my mouse pointer, right? Good. So I'm going to make it so that that's fixed real quick. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to make it so that the right now we have a rotate towards player script and a shoot forward script. And the shoot forward, all it does is it instantiates whatever bullet that we set at the position of the object. So I'm going to actually create a little invisible game object that's going to represent where the bullets spawn from, so that they spawn from the front of the unit rather than right in the center. And we'll attach the script to that instead, and then that should fix that little problem real quick. So what we're going to do is we're just going to create an empty game object. Did you see that? I went to the game object menu first.
Yeah, I always
finally learned that it is not in here.
Oh, good work.
Yeah, I'm impressed.
I can't even learn that after I don't know how many months of using Unity.
Yeah, it should be in there. It should be in both. I don't see why it's not. So we're just going to call this bullet spawner, and we're going to So 6, 1.5 enemy bullet. We're just going to throw shoot forward on this. And is there anything else I need to do to make this work right? So let's set this right in the center of the unit. 0. And so because of the rotation, okay, what happens if we go 0, 0 here? There, that's perfect. That's the way we want it. So you want the blue arrow facing forward. You want the, well, wait, what direction am I even looking at this from? Where am I? Hold on. There's the camera. Okay, there we go. So, is that right? I would optimally want Y to be up on the... Oh, that's because we rotated the... Okay, this is all right. This is good. So, I'm going to put the... I already put the short forward script on there. I'm going to put the enemy bullet in here. 6, 1.5, and we're going to remove that from the parent here. And I'm also going to remove our old shoot it player script, which we basically replaced with the rotate and shoot code. And so now it should... Oh, yeah, it's still in the center, so that's not fixing the problem yet. So we just need to move this out a little bit in the Z direction. So we're just going to move it out to about there. We hit play. And now it looks much more like it's not coming out the side there. Maybe we can move it out a little bit more. We don't want it to pop too much because it just looks better if it actually looks like it's emerging from something. But at the same time, we also don't want it to look like it's going through the object itself. Actually, that little gap there doesn't really bother me too much, but I'm going to bring it in 1.75, and we're going to call it at that probably. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Alright, so we've got our turret. We could put a few of these in a level. So let's, what are we going to work on first? So let's first get a few more things of logic in here. So I'm going to first make this into a prefab so I don't forget later and delete it and not have a turret. After all that work I spent modeling it, quote unquote, with a cube and a
cylinder.
Cylinder. Well, actually, no,
capsule.
Yeah.
Capsule.
So we've got a prefab of that. We could make it smaller too, which is nice because I think we may want to do that because it's a little dominating on the screen right now. I guess if we only had a couple of them on the edges, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. But or maybe we'll just bring the camera out a little. Let's do that right now. Let's go with the main camera and just bring it to -15. Let's see how that looks. There, that looks a little bit more dual shooter, less cramped. I've got a crazy amount of stuff going on here. Oh, does it? It explodes. Oh, do the bullets explode? Oh, these are the exploding bullets, that's right. That's what we implemented. We started the exploding bullets thing last time. Alright, let's get that finished up first. So right now, we've got these bullets that they take out enemies way far away from each other, and there's nothing visually that really lets you know that those are an exploding bullet. So let's take a stab at that, and then let's actually make it into a real power-up system like we were intended, where it'll just be something that you can collect or something that you get after a certain score, and it'll start happening as opposed to just something we said at the beginning. Like all we've done right now is just replace the main players. We've changed his bullet to explosive bullet rather than the regular bullet. So, let's see. So, yeah, explosive bullet. Bullet speed, shoot play. So, let's look at the script for this, the explosive bullet, and let's change it around. We did this in like 10 minutes last time, so I kind of want to actually take a look at it this time. Got explode on collision is what we're using for our bullets. Our exploding bullets, at least. And I didn't open up Mono Develop before starting the show, so sorry about this, folks.
Yeah, it takes a long time to fire up on that first try.
Gonna,
That's a little weird.
Yeah, you'd think that mono develop would be the least computationally expensive thing that. Yeah, and it always likes to bring it onto the other window here, and then. Yeah. All right. There we go. And let's make the view a little bit bigger. All right. So what we've got here is. The exploding bullets, we have them spawn some explosion debris, and we do this very similar to the way that we did get the GIB stuff, which actually I just copied and pasted from the other stuff. So I'm just going to very briefly go over this because we've seen it in several episodes. This is our GIB code for the amount, so amount equals 10 in this case. On the default, we can make it less or more. It just spawns the explosion debris in a random place based on the spawn radius, and then adds an explosion force to it. So this is just standard stuff here, and it loops through that 10 times in this case.
Now, why the spawn radius?
The spawn radius is actually because we're doing add explosion force, and what add explosion force does is it. Am I going to use the right term here? Attenuates it basically diminishes the amount of power and force that's done to things based on the radius, and so if all the objects are right in the center when they spawn. Not only will they be overlapping with each other, which causes the physics system to push them out in an awkward way, but they're all going to be basically getting zero force direction because it wants to explode out, but they're all at the center. And so I do a spawn radius separate of the explosion radius so that you can kind of tweak it. So they're all technically, like you'll never see when the enemies explode here. You'll see that there's actually kind of an empty space in the middle of them. They're not. It's not like the bullets. The explosions start right at the epicenter, and that's because of that spawn radius to make them actually explode out a little bit nicer. It's just to make it look nicer and make it actually work. But that's the reason I've got that in there.
And that's separate from the explosion force, which is another random on
each
one.
I've got them set separately. The spawn radius, you basically want that to be. You want this value to be about the radius of whatever you're exploding. So you want it to basically cover that area so that it doesn't feel like it's coming out of somewhere else. Kind of like what we did with the bullets there before. You want to make it so it looks like it's originating. But you don't want it all right in the center. And so explosion radius can be separate because then you can get... it can boost up the force a little bit. Generally, you don't need it much larger than the spawn radius itself, though, just because... you definitely want it bigger than the spawn radius, because otherwise you won't get force applied to the outside pieces. But yeah, that's the reason I have it separate. I have it separate mostly for tweaking purposes. There's probably some magical sweet spot that I could program in, so I would only have to tweak one number, but I haven't found that yet in my own experimentation, so... And as I said, the spawn radius in particular is very much based on the radius of the object. I think I had a version of this where it did
the radius of the GIB, or
in this case the radius of the object being gibbed. Oh, okay. And actually, it's probably a bit big for these. Like this is actually what we're working on here is the bullets themselves. So when they hit the enemy here, it still looks okay. It's amazing how much you can fudge in games, and your brain will just fill in the details. Hopefully that still reads well in the video. Fast action's not the strongest point. Although we're at 12 frames per second today, I cranked it up a little bit because I thought I could get away with it.
Kicked it up a notch.
Kicked it up a notch, and we'll just keep doing that until the show starts looking bad or looking good or something. So the new stuff here is we're doing an explosion, and we're sending a little message to all the objects that are caught within the explosion that they should kill themselves. In practice, you might want to apply force to them, or you might want to subtract hit points. We're just going straight for the kill in this case because we don't really have a concept of hit points yet in this game. What we're doing here is we're doing a physics.overlap sphere. What this does is it just creates a sphere with the position and radius that you give it. So this time I've overloaded it and used the explosion radius here because it's appropriate enough for it. And the position for where the explosion happens, which is just wherever the object is when it hits this on collision inner. And what this does is it returns a list of every collider that's in there. So if any object has a collider, it doesn't matter if it has a rigid body or not. Just as long as it has a collider, it'll be in that list. and we're just sending a message to kill that object in the list. So we're going to tweak this around, though. What I want to do is I want to be able to visually show that an explosion's happening, and so that you understand that enemies are dying. So what I'm going to change it to is we're going to actually spawn in a sphere representing the explosion. Maybe grow it out. We'll do a little grow out effect on it. It'll look kind of cheesy, but it'll give you an idea of how to do similar effects. And we're going to use that to show the explosion radius, so you can see why these enemies are dying from such a far away. We're going to tweak that down too, but we just wanted to make sure that it worked on the previous episode here.
One question on that overlap sphere is: does the collider, can it be anywhere in the sphere, or does it have to overlap with the surface of it?
I believe that if it is touching or fully inside, it will count on that.
Oh, okay.
So anything that's on the edge will still count towards the physics overlap sphere stuff.
Yeah, correct. I'm using that in my game for the explosive bombs. And,
Got it.
And yeah, definitely, if it's right on the edge, it'll still count.
So I'm just going to create a sphere, and we're going to call this Splode. And I'm going to create a new color for it because it takes very little time, and yellow, because that's what explosions are made out of. I really should have a little fireball texture. Maybe we'll make it fancier later. Maybe do a cool transparency effect or something. What's a fiery orange?
There you go.
Somewhere in here. Yeah, that's good enough for me. And we're going to throw this on our Splode. And actually, let's just make it look a little different here. Let's go with self-illuminating diffuse. And so this will show brightly no matter how the light's reflecting off of it. Alright, so that'll probably work. So, we're going to call this Splode. I'm just going to make a prefab out of it. And I'm just going to zero things out. I don't know why I do this. It's just an organizational OCD thing. So I'm going to go ahead and delete this. So this, are we going to need anything else for this thing? So it already has a sphere collider. Yeah, this is probably already set up to do what we need it to do. So now we're going to go back to our script. And instead of just sending a message in this physics overlap sphere, we're going to redo this a little bit. We're going to actually, this is going to be old method. We're going to do this a little bit differently. So instead, we're actually going to just spawn public game object explosion object. So we're just going to instantiate one of these. And it's going to be called explosion object. And explosion object. And I don't think we're going to need to do anything else. So this is just going to create the sphere that we just created, which is not everything that we need. We need it to actually expand and kill itself at some point too. But we're going to do that next. I just want to make sure this works first real quick. So if we did it right, we should see an error. Local variable spawn position cannot be used. Oh, that's because we don't have a spawn position. So transform dot position. So we move and we shoot, and unassigned reference. We didn't actually assign the
Splode.
Yeah, for the explosive bullet, we need to actually have Splode in there. Right here.
That's the object that gets instantiated?
Yeah, these are our exploded bullets. Okay, so it's working. So it's created these little explosions. They collide with each other. That's actually kind of a cool concept for a game. It's kind of puzzle bobble right there. Or the opposite of a Gradius level.
Yes.
Yeah, where you
This
shoot
is
things
how-
and it makes them into.
This is
I'm
actually
going to crash this. I'm going to crash this if I keep playing with this.
That's actually how that level in Gradius was created.
Yeah.
There was a
this
ship
dual
ahead
stick
of time.
shooter just started making balls everywhere, and then you're like, why? Why is this? Why can't I not get through here? I have to shoot all these balls. All right.
So I don't want to slow you down at all, but I do have a question about the instantiate, and
Okay.
It returns an object, that you can then do stuff
Yeah.
with.
Yeah.
My question is, why isn't it a game object?
All right. That's
I
an
figured
excellent
other,
question.
other people would probably have the same question mark.
This is an
Like,
excellent
I didn't even
question.
realize there was an object. It seems like the base should be a game object. This is a game engine.
Yeah. Well, so if you look up the instantiate call, I'm actually glad you asked this one, but
Ooh, docs.
this is a bit. This is something I haven't mentioned because we haven't used it this way yet, but it's something that is a good shorthand. Actually, there's a reason to do this. So if you look at this, it actually returns an object. It doesn't return a game object. It returns an object, which is why you have to do a cast as game object to actually do anything with it. Now, what's magic about this is, say, like this is a good example here. I'm going to actually change my code around just slightly. So we care about the rigid body on this instantiation. As a matter of fact, that's really the only thing we care about on this one, because we get the instance, like this creates the object, but then we want to add an explosion force to it. So what we've done here is we get a reference to it that's a game object, and then we use that game object reference to get the rigid body reference. Now, here's the magic. We can change it to a rigid body. And when you do this, and you pass in the rigid body here as a reference as opposed to the object, you can cast it as a rigid body.
Oh, and you'll get the rigid body.
And then you just immediately get the attached rigid body as opposed to, just the component. So instead of doing give instance rigid body, we can just do give instance dot add explosion force. And if we are lucky, this should still work, although I'm going to have to change once this compiles. Or maybe it won't. Maybe it won't be a problem. No, it's a problem. All right. So I need to actually change this reference to... So if you drag it in now, it drags in as a rigid body component. Yeah, I didn't even have to explicitly drag in the rigid body component. It knows to grab the rigid body component and give that to the bullet. So now it says give rigid body. So if we do it now, it should just work. Yeah, it's working like it did before. And technically, that's actually a little bit slightly faster.
Because you put as rigid body here, it knew you wanted the rigid body component?
Well, what happens is rigid bodies,
you put it right
game
there.
objects,
Got it.
rigid bodies, game objects, and any component, all components actually, are derived from object. And instantiate is one of those calls where, yes, they're all derived from objects, but it makes an assumption, and it passes on whatever data based on what you pass into it. So, like, if I hadn't changed this type, it's going to give me like a lot of trouble, actually, because I'm casting effectively a game object to a rigid body, even though it's in the interim it's being used as an object. They just do that for the ease of use on this. So whatever you pass in here has to match what you want it to cast as.
It seems like it would only instantiate the rigid body component and not the
It does
married
seem
object.
like that. It does seem like that, but
That's
instantiate
weird, right?
actually instantiates
It's smart.
the whole thing. Yeah.
It finds its parent and
Yeah.
instantiates that.
I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. I'm not going to begin to pretend. If you guys go on the IRC channel for Unity 3D, it's on Freenode, I think. N. Carter's probably the person to field that question. That guy is he's been doing this for a while, and he knows a lot about how the internals work at this point. But I couldn't begin to guess as to exactly what's going on behind the scenes. All I know is if you instantiate a component, it gives you the whole object, gives you the whole enchilada. You can use this for your own scripts too. Like if you have a script attached and you want to access just members of that script, you can declare it with your script name as opposed to rigid body or something, like whatever your component name is, and then you can access the member variables of that script directly from the reference that you get out of the instantiate.
Wow.
Yeah. So anyway, that was a good little side conversation, but at least this helps. It gives me a little bit more depth as to what we're doing here. So we're instantiating this. So let's do the next part of this little equation. So we've got our explode object. We're going to create a script, C# script. What's a good name for this other than explode? Let's just call it grow and destroy. So what this is going to do is it's going to expand our explosion out at a rate, and then once it gets to a certain radius, it's just going to pop out of existence. And we'll see how this actually looks. So we're going to put a couple variables in here. Public float. Initial radius. Public float goal radius. Actually, let's go with final. Final sounds like the opposite of initial, doesn't it? You can name it whatever you want, but I don't know why I have so much trouble with just naming variables. Public. Okay, so initial radius, final radius. Let's just make a bool to destroy at final. Let's just assume it. It says grow and destroy. We want to destroy it. So, oh yeah, rate. Public float grow rate. Is it a rate or a speed or is it a time? Let's do grow time actually. And let's give these meaningful enough initial values. I'm going to do 1.0 f for the initial. Let's do 5.0 f for the final, and grow time. Make it go over the course of. Let's just do 1.0 for the default. We'll probably make that smaller. So all this is going to do is we're just going to call a coroutine that's going to handle the growing for us. So we're probably not going to use the update function. I'm going to leave it here just in case, because I always eat my words whenever I start deleting code. So all we're going to do is we're going to do the standard coroutine thing. So we're going to do a start coroutine, and I'm going to call this coroutine grow and kill, because I can't call it grow and destroy because we don't want it to conflict with the class name or anything. And we're just going to do enumerator grow and kill. So if this is your first time watching, coroutines basically you can yield out of them and they will run the next update cycle. And so we're going to use that to our advantage so that we don't have to worry about things anymore. We're basically just going to call this coroutine and it's going to handle everything from there on out. So this is going to be a pretty standard LERP, linear interpolation thing. So freezing up here. You're getting too close.
Dot.
You're getting too close to, yeah. Looking over my shoulder, Doug. I'm freaking out here. All right.
Oh, we've all done linear interpolation a few times.
I would hope. So. So we just need a time variable. So let's do float t while t is less than grow time. So what we're going to do here is we're going to ultimately be doing a vector3.lerp. Is that it? Yeah, that's the one we want. So we got a vector from, to, and t. So the from will be. So we got to make these real quick. So the way I wrote this. So vector 3 from so this thing doesn't complain at me the whole time. Vector 3 initial size equals new vector 3 initial radius, and vector 3 final size equals same thing here. Well, we're going to do final radius. Maybe I should be using diameter. I don't know. I'm not going to worry about it for right now. So all we're going to do is game object dot. Actually, we can just do transform dot scale. We'll go with local scale equals vector 3 lerp initial final and float t. So in this case, we need to do t divided by grow time, because it expects a value between 0 and 1 for our t value. So at 0, it'll be at the initial radius, and at 1, it'll be at the final radius. So then we make sure to increase t, so t plus equals, and we should initially set this to 0.
Mm-hmm.
T plus equals time dot delta time. And then once it's actually 2 its grow size, we just destroy game object.
And you don't have to sleep out or anything?
Oh, thank you. Thank you, I do. I absolutely do. So this would normally do everything, and we would see nothing because it would just be destroyed on the same frame. Thank you for catching that. We need to actually yield out. So yield return null.
My spidey sense tingles every time I'm about to lock a core up.
Well, that's good. At least I wasn't going to lock the core up, because it was going to eventually get out of there. That's the worst, is when you're like, oh, t is less than grow time, and then t just is 0 forever.
Yes.
So, yeah. And actually, speaking of locking things up, I'm going to save. If it doesn't lock up now, I'm getting beach ball. All right. Help, beach ball. All right, so now all we have to do is best loaded, overloaded, vector 3 float has some invalid arguments. Yeah, we need size, not radius. I was giving it floats when it wanted vector 3s. So now we're going to just throw this script on explode. We're going to hit play and see what we get. We got explosions. I don't know why it's chopping so bad right now. Oh, there we go. Now it's going smooth. That actually looks really cool, especially when they explode on each other. That'll actually look much less cool when we actually fix that bug. It's kind of got a cool cartoony style, though, yeah.
Classic missile command.
Right now they're not colliding with things. We haven't set up their collision objects properly, but yeah. Actually, I don't even think we need the little red explosion gibs anymore. I'm actually going to see what happens if we just set those to 0 for right now. For explosive bullet, let's just set this to 0 and see what we get. See how it looks without the extra blood particles that don't really need to be there. Yeah, that looks good. So let's make it actually interact properly with things and not collide with things it shouldn't be colliding with.
How did you disable the other little particle effects coming off them?
So what I had done is we have in the script it has an amount for the amount of things that it should go. I just set it to 0, so it has just this for loop, and it'll just drop out of it before it even spawns 1.
Got it.
So simple enough. So we need to figure out how we're going to do the collision on these things. So we want it to collide with enemies so that they die. We probably don't want it to collide with bullets. Or if we do, we want it to actually destroy those bullets. Let's make... and should they collide with the player? Like, should this be a weapon that can kill the player? What do you guys think? Let's do a group. We got 3 people we can vote here. I think it should kill the player.
Yeah, I do
Definitely.
too.
All right. Well, that was
It's a unanimous vote.
All right.
This is a
All right.
dual stick shooter. I mean, everything kills the player, right?
Well, most dual stick shooters, the stuff that the dual sticker itself produces, safe. Not this time.
Should be a dangerous weapon.
I guess that's a
All
good
right.
point.
That's risk versus reward.
All right.
There.
Sounds good. So, actually, it's like that. What's that game that where you get Super Crate Box? Have you played that
No,
yet?
I've never
It's
played
an
that.
awesome game.
It's an awesome game. I like it because it has power-ups that are bad for you. But the whole goal of the game is to get as many power-ups as possible. And so you want to pick up everything, but you don't want to get the horrible things that cut your own heads off and stuff.
That sounds horrible.
It's
Sounds
actually
like
a
a
cool
fun
game.
game.
It's a cool
I want you
concept.
to download it right now and play it. And get back to us.
All right, so let's look at our collision stuff. So let's make a new collision layer. I'm going to run out of layers on this episode. That's not true. There is a limit. You can only have 32 layers, and there's some built-in ones. So keep that in mind. Actually, why do they have blank built-in layers? This seems like such a waste. Whatever. I'm not
For
gonna worry about
reasons.
it. For reasons. So I'm going to call this explosion.
That affects the draw order? On
This
the different
this is the physics layer. So this affects the main thing that it allows us to use the little graphical array here to determine whether things collide or not. And the other thing it's useful for is if you need to, separate of this, you can do collision checks. With raycasts, you can give it a layer mask so that it'll only check on certain layers and things like that.
And the layer is set in the rigid body component?
Yes. It's actually set on the object itself. So like if I go to our explode here, it says layer default. You just drop it into
So any
explosion.
of the components could take advantage of the layer?
Yes. Yes. Though it typically is only meaningful if you have a rigid body or at the very least a collider. So explosion. So what do we want explosion to work with? Let's see. Physics. So we want this thing to blow up. We don't want it to blow up default layer. Enemy bullets. I guess we want this to explode. We want this to collide with most things. Yeah. Yeah, we're just going to leave it colliding things. And what we're going to do is we're going to... I think I'm going to add a script to the explosion thing that just destroys any object that's within it. Just annihilates it. Or at least sends a give message. That's what we'll do. We'll send a give message. That'll be safer than... So we kind of had that in our script before, so I'm just going to... actually, let's grow and destroy now.
Is this as it grows or just on instantiation?
This will be as long as it's there, we're just going to basically have this annihilator sphere that just tries to... It will send a give message, and so anything that receives a give message will just blow up at that point.
Every time it loops, it'll do the check.
Yeah, it'll do the check every frame while it's on the screen. So this is actually similar to how I did it for Proton Pulse, actually. We had a little exploding thing, and we don't have it visible, though. We actually made it invisible, but it grows, but I kind of want to make it visible, but we couldn't do semi-transparent because it was too slow on the iOS stuff. So we're still up in the air on what we're going to do to actually make that read better, but yeah, I'm still working on a game that I released 2 months ago. I don't know why I do this to myself. So, explode. We're going to create a script, create new C# script. Oh, wait, we already have Gib on Collide. We don't even have to make this. This is why it's good to make general stuff. So we just throw this on our... Oh, wait, no. Gib on Collide. That's not what we want. That's actually going to give this object, isn't it? Yeah. Component. Gib on Gib message, Gib on Collide.
Gib on Gib message sounds like the right thing.
That's is Gib on Collide sending the? No, it's not. All right, we're gonna need to create send message Gib to Collider. Yeah, that puts a bad taste in my mouth, but I'm gonna use that.
It can't all be contained in that loop that is growing the.
It
sphere.
could. It could totally be in grow and destroy. We could throw it right in there. I'm going to keep it separate just in case we want other objects to grow for whatever reason. Like maybe a bubble gun that does nothing. Like maybe we have a gun that just shoots bubbles, and for whatever reason, like maybe an enemy has it or something. I don't know. Like probably won't run into that problem, but you could. So I'm just gonna make it separate, because that's the nice thing about component base is you can kind of just build, you can Lego style it, and that's what we're gonna do for this one.
Reusable.
Components. Yeah, exactly. Really reusable components, which almost benefited us last time because I was like, oh, we had Gib on Collide, but it's not the right kind of Gib on Collide for what we needed. So I'm not reusing it. So I'm not sure if I'm teaching anyone proper manners or advantages of components here. But trust me, if you make it simple enough, you can throw it into any game later. And actually, what I want to do ultimately is have a group of... just want to do a group of scripts and assets and stuff. Like I want to just put something on the asset store, maybe just for free, just like Cooking with Unity prototyping pack, just have some models, have some scripts, just stuff that you can just drag and drop, make a game with, as opposed to having to script even anything. So send message Gib on Collider. So to Collider, this really doesn't need anything other than void on collision enter. And we're going to need the collision information, so collision call. That'll be good. Actually, I could probably just get away with collision. Okay. The only reason I don't do that is by default is because there is on trigger enter that uses a collider rather than a collision?
I believe so.
Yeah. And you don't want to call a collider because collider, by default, is just like transform. It will get you the collider on the object, so you'll get a warning about hiding member variables if you do
get
that.
A name clobbering situation.
Yeah. It actually generally resolves peacefully, but it makes my hair stand on end whenever I realize I'm in that situation. The reason it generally goes peacefully is because generally I'm not doing anything on my collider by itself, but I might at some point, and then it'll be a problem. So all we want from the collision is what we're colliding against. So collision dot collider. Actually, does it have a game object just immediately? Yes, it does. Okay, so game object. Dot send message. Actually, can we just do send message directly? Dot send. No. Had to try. Send message. And the message will be Gib. So now all we have to do is throw this into our explode here. And this may work. Do the enemies... What do we have for the enemies right now? Fodder enemy. Okay, so they don't actually have a rigid body, and the explode doesn't have a rigid body. So this will not actually work right off the bat. The reason for this is... I'm going to actually bring up a really important document here. Physics... Whoops. Mesh... Collider Unity. There's this really important chart that should be something that you try to memorize. I'm still trying to work on this one. You've seen this one, I'm pretty sure. So, and I think we've shown it on the show before. So, this is what gets collisions based on the different interactions. So, we're looking at collision. So this is collision messages, and this is trigger messages. So the collisions as a very small subset. You basically have to have one of the objects has to have a collider, and no, both the objects have to have a collider, and one of the objects has to have a rigid body. So static collider and rigid body collider works. Rigid body collider works. And then you've got these edge cases. So kinematic, rigid body collider, and just a regular one works. But then everything outside of this you can't do. Like static colliders don't collide with static colliders because it's not checking. Those objects are not even moving as far as Unity is concerned for the physics system. And this is a much smaller group than the trigger messages. We're probably just going to switch this to trigger because it makes more sense from what we're doing here. Trigger is much wider range. Only one of the components has to have a rigid body. I don't think there's a case where you can do it without a rigid body at all. Yeah. So what we're going to do is we're going to switch it to a trigger message and make sure... Oh, wait. No, they don't need to have a rigid body, do they? Static... Yeah, they do. Okay. One of them has to have a rigid body. So, if one of them has to have a rigid body anyway, I'm just going to tweak this by putting a rigid body in here on the explosion and making it kinematic. Will that actually work for our purposes? Kinematic, rigid body collider, and I don't know. These are guys that are going to be static colliders. But a kinematic rigid body collider... I'm spending too much time looking at this on the show. So, it's already almost 9. I'm going to go... Is everyone here okay with 30 more minutes?
Yeah, sure.
All right. You sure? All right. We're just going to go ahead and go 30 more minutes because I wanted to get a little more done here. I'm going to change it to on trigger enter. And we're going to try... We're going to see if this works. Kinematic, on trigger enter. I didn't change the name of it, so we'll be confused later. Yeah, didn't work. Still didn't work. Okay, I kind of thought that was going to be the case. So... Did I actually mark this as a trigger? I did not. Let's try that. No, still didn't work. Alright. Doing this the ghetto way. And it's still not working.
Those enemies have the function gib in them?
They should, but let's check that. That's a good thing to check. Gib on gib message. Yeah, they do.
Okay.
Let's make sure that we call it gib. Yeah, we called it gib. Oh, I didn't save this. Let's see if it works now.
Yeah, that's...
saving's an important part of it.
That's one of the frustrating things about the way Mono Develop is linked to Unity.
Yeah.
It's a little weak right now. It'd be neat if you could be in Mono Develop, press F5 and it run your game in Unity and toggle focus back to Unity and save. That would be great.
Yeah, no, that would be really nice.
Or even just when you lose focus on Mono Develop, to have it save all open files.
Script error on trigger enter. Okay, that's the other thing. I just changed the trigger enter, which I could have gotten away with if we weren't using the collider, but we are, and so on trigger enter doesn't return a collision; it returns a collider. So collider col. Here's where I have to do the col here, and then we just do collider dot send message. Okay, so this one we can just skip a level here. Try this one more time, and then we'll
Send message.
Yeah, that didn't seem right.
Oh,
You get rid of one of the send. You have 2 send messages.
Oh, thank you. That was really obvious, and you both were really trying desperately to not embarrass me on my show. Yell louder.
Yell louder.
Yeah. I don't know why it chops so much initially when doing this. It seems to even out a little bit. Okay, it worked. It worked. See, the enemy exploded. Amazing. We're amazing.
I'm getting some.
Only took like 30 tries on that. And we're getting no receiver. Okay, that's because we should... anytime that you don't expect, there will sometimes be an object here. If you want to do send message options, don't require a receiver. And that way you won't get the errors here. Let's try this one more time. And then let's see if we can pare it down a little bit better than we did before. So, can I get away with a kinematic? I prefer that to the locking, even though it basically is the same thing. I don't even know why I prefer it to the locking, honestly. I'm not sure if there's a good reason I have for that.
Well, if you wanted it to move around or something
That's true.
At some point, right?
Yeah. But, I mean, you could still move... I mean, you're fighting the physics system, but you could still technically move the location even if you freeze it, if you're just not working with it. Okay, yeah, we didn't need that. We can just do kinematic. Perfect. That'll work nicely.
Using the message system wasn't necessarily required for this, right?
No, we could have... there's a few different ways we could have done it. We could have actually gotten an instance of a component and sent...
On the collision message.
Yeah, on the collision
see
message.
See if it's one of those explosion objects or whatever.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's 100,000 different ways we could have approached this. We could have checked it on the objects themselves. We could have checked it on... we could have even... because these things have a give on collide type script, we could have even gotten around with just giving them a collision message. If we had just made it so that it was solid enough that they got a collision message, they'd die when they hit the edge of it anyway. Again, it's a matter of preference. It's a matter of what's working for the program at the time, and sometimes on this show, especially, I'll do things multiple ways just to show that there's multiple ways to do things, and then sometimes I do it multiple ways because I'm not paying attention. So,
okay, now I got a question that's way out there. I should already know the answer to this. Can you put a breakpoint on your code and stop and?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. I think I've shown this on the show once before, but if you need a breakpoint, you just put a breakpoint in,
set it there,
and you do connect here.
You have to attach to process.
You have to attach to process, and once you attach it to the Unity editor, you can go into Unity, hit play. Oops, play. And the moment that happens, it'll bring you into the editor.
And you can see the call stack and everything?
Yes, to a certain extent.
Right. This is one of the reasons I always try to stay away from messages, is just because you lose your call stack.
Aha.
And that can just sometimes you'll just find yourself in a situation where you've been ambiguated from your original call stack when you sent the message, because that's really what you want to see in the call stack. You don't really care what happened as much after you receive the message. A lot of time you need to know why it originated and all that sort of thing. So you get burned really bad.
That's a good point. That's a very good point. And honestly, I use send message a lot on the show just because of convenience, and
it's super good. It's a super good way to do it.
There are really, really good places to use it, and then there's a lot of cases where you don't want to use it. And a lot of people online, the performance Nazis online, they will always say, "Oh, send message is really super slow." That's really not the reason to not use send message. There's a lot of times where you want to use it, and a lot of times when you don't want to use it. And if your thing is slowed down because of send message, you are probably doing something wrong, or a lot and wrong. It's just
too many messages.
Yeah, way too many messages. There's a couple of ways you can get around it. One is to get a reference to the component themselves and just call the function, which is probably the fastest way to operate, as long as you have a cached reference to the component. And then there's the delegate system for C#, which is amazing, and I have not learned it yet, and that's the reason I don't tell people about it yet.
When you send a message, does the message get received on the next cycle through? Is it a time of flight? There's like one iteration of your game before.
No, it will hit on the same frame.
Delivered.
It'll deliver on the same frame.
I see. Mm-hmm.
So,
as in delivered immediately. Like when you say send message, it's immediately received, or does it send out all 1,000 and then all of a sudden they get pulled up after?
I'm not 100% sure on that. I do know that it happens the same frame. I'm not sure what part of the frame it happens. I'm not sure if it immediately just like a stack operation where it just immediately goes in and waits, or if it just gets put into a message processing queue and then gets sent out to each object that had its message sent at the time. I'm like creating homework for myself. I should bring the answer back to the next episode. I'm down with that.
I mean, there's a lot of things that come along with the message design pattern.
Yeah.
But no, this is all looks really good. It's nice because it's nice and simple.
Yeah. So we got these things exploding. Let's make it so this. Actually, the turret's scarier than when you can't kill it. Let's leave this turret's invulnerable for right now. And we'll just use them sparingly in levels. So what were we going to get done here? I said 30 minutes. I think I'm actually just going to make it until we get the next thing done. Let's make it so... let's add it so that the player can die. No, let's do that later because I don't want the player dying when I'm testing things. That's a terrible reason not to implement something, isn't it? It's just like, it'll hurt the testing. Let's make it so these bullets don't float around in space really awkwardly. Let's fix that.
Space bullets.
Yeah, space bullets. So what we're going to do is on the bullet and the enemy bullet, let's make them actually... so how do these... Okay, so these just impact things. So we've got Gib on Collide. We don't just have Destroy on Collide, do we? I'll just use Gib on Collide, not actually using Gibs for right now. I'm just going to throw this on the bullet and throw it on the enemy bullet. And it'll probably be benefit us later if we want to have a pew-pew sound when they hit anything. We can just have it spawn a sound object or something. And so, yeah, we're just going to set the amount to 0. Amount to 0. And all the rest doesn't really matter. So let's just see what happens. See if this actually makes our bullets disappear. Yeah, so now the bullets get eaten. Look, we reused some code. It's more code than we needed to reuse, but we fixed a bug with it, so... But then again, like I said, it's maybe not more code than we needed to reuse. Maybe we want a particle effect. Maybe we want a little fizzle or something when it explodes. We could use the Gibbs system for that. Alright, so this is looking pretty good. Let's make sure that, multiple turrets work. I don't see why they wouldn't, but let's like attach a couple near the top of the level. Yeah, that works. And, I don't know. I kind of want to make it so the player can die, so that we have a game, but...
Just add a bool, so that you can click it to say is invincible or is not invincible.
Yeah.
So you can still do testing without having to worry about him dying.
Let's just do... We can just turn it off on the player, too, so let's just do Explode on Collision. Which will be horrible when... actually, let's do... Wait, what's Explode on Collision? Oh, that's a different thing. That's the one that actually creates an explosion. Yeah, let's do that. Let's totally do that. Oh, this is going to be awesome. We're going to throw this on the player. I'm going to create a... okay, we're going to... Explosion debris. What do we want it to explode into? Let's just do the Gib for right now, even though the player shouldn't be... why did I do that? That was stupid. Gib. And then let's do the explosion object. We'll do explode again. And,
Why do you say Why do you say that was stupid?
It wasn't stupid. I just say things. I talk. Okay, so we want player explode. We're gonna duplicate this and call it. What did I click? I didn't click anything bad, right? Okay. Rename. Just rename, please. All right, up here. We're renaming you. Player Explode. I don't know what that was all about. So Player Explode, we're going to... What are we going to do with this? Grow and destroy. We're going to make the final radius 20.
Ooh.
And the grow time, let's do 2 seconds. And then instead of send message give to collider, I'm going to make one more real quick script here. No, we'll just do give on collide. That's what we'll do. So the turrets will survive it, whatever. So now when we hit play, I get shot, and it did not get big enough. Why did it? Null reference exception too. What did we get here? Move direct. Oh, yeah. Follow player.
They have no target.
I'm not fixing that right now. Follow player. Move direction. Game object. Find object with tag. Let's fix it. Why not? We've got time. I'm making extra time. Let's make it look good. If game object. Actually. Player game object player
And the
equals.
tag is different than the name? Or is that just the name?
This is the tag. The tag is this little pull down thing here. It's usually a little bit more reliable than going by name, especially if you instantiate things. They have that little clone text and stuff.
Yes.
And I've seen people hack around that and just use tags. And you have. Like, unlike layers, you can have a billion tags. You can have 100,000 tags if you needed to in your game. Just use it.
One tag for each object type if you wanted.
Yeah, so if player, then we'll do this stuff. And this will get rid of our little null reference problem. As soon as we don't need to redo this, we can just do player.transform. Hit play. No. And still got a null reference exception. Oh, we have a rotate towards player as well. Same deal.
Cut and paste.
If player position. Let's see if this just works. I'm not 100% sure this one will actually work, but it may. Not implicitly what? Oh, to bool. Got it. Okay, so I can't do that. Alright. Game object player equals game object find object with tag player transform position if player. Told you I didn't think it was going to work. Kill me. No.
A lot of things that look like they shouldn't work in Unity. That's one of the cool things about it.
It's true. It's very true. This needs to be in if player as well. That was where the problem was actually lying. Yeah, the magic thing is like the fact that, I don't know, I just love that if an object's destroyed, all reference to it are automatically set to null. Mm-hmm. I was discussing that with you, and you explained how that magic can happen behind the scenes, but I still think it's pretty amazing, even no matter how it's happening behind the scenes. So where did explore and collision? No. Oh, I know what happened. I'm using Splode and not player Splode. There we go. This will be much bigger, and then we're going to call it. So we have a player. We get killed, and oh no! All right. I don't know why those guys didn't explode, but I do know why they're standing still, because they don't have anything to follow anymore.
They don't know what to do with their life.
Yep. All right. So, thank you for joining us tonight. Thank you for coming on
My
as
pleasure.
a guest, Doug. Love to have you
It's
again
fun.
sometime.
Yeah, I'd love to come again.
Yeah. And thank you, Phil, for being here and helping out with the show. And,
No worries.
And yeah, so I still don't have my text working on my screen thing for whatever reason. Did I actually save one from last time?
I do not know.
Working with Unity Untitled. I don't want to open Untitled on TV. Just gotta open the text edit. It'll probably open Untitled anyway.
How bad could it be on a text edit?
I don't know.
Just all bank account information.
Oh wow, yeah, text edit. That takes a while to open. That's fantastic.
Yay, text edit.
Have you solicited viewers as to what future episodes ideas they might have? Or
I have. I use. That's actually part of what I'm doing right here.
Mhm.
Except for I'm waiting.
Text edit.
Hello. Hello. Everyone's still there. Still encoding and streaming to primary,
That's what it looks like.
and text edit is still bouncing. There was a second where all my audio, and actually everything's a second late now. That's distracting. Hello. All right. We're doing it verbal. Actually, let's use monodevelop. Maybe it's faster. What's going on with my computer? All right. All right. Email me, pushypixels@pushypixels.com. Sound it out.
check out Starfall.
Check out Starfall
Yeah,
2.
Starfall 2. It's on the Mac App Store and the iPad.
Yep.
Yep. Oh, yeah, it's on the Mac, too.
Yep.
I would have shown it on the show as a game, but 12 frames per second does not do it justice.
No.
So it has a
Thank
really
you.
smooth animation. But yeah, Starfall 2, check it out. It's awesome. Proton Pulse, as always, it's not as awesome as Starfall 2, but
Oh,
it's...
come on.
Oh, okay.
It's
I
awesome.
like Proton
Doug
Pulse.
just
It's
says
great.
it's awesome as Starfall 2, so check it out. And
out-
email me, pushypixels@pushypixels.com.
If you can't buy the free version or the paid version of Proton Pulse, check out the free version as well, the Proton Pulse for everyone.
Thank you, Phil.
Mm-hmm.
And thank you, everyone, and good night.
Have a good night.
Good night.